Alright, good morning everyone. Sorry for slightly. Okay, so for some of you who know me, well, my name is Zaira Ahmad. For those of you who don't know me, you can just Google up, see how I look like, because I'm not going to have a video which show my face. Well, I'm one of the lecturer from Biosciences, and at the same time, I'm actually also the manager for Chemical Management Unit from the PPMU, or University Laboratory Management Center, from the Office of DVCRI. So for this week, my topic is actually on the safety in usage, storage, and disposal of chemicals. And along the way in my slide, I will incorporate some information on the equipment available in UIRL. So UIRL is actually stands for University Industrial Research Laboratories. It is under PPMU, University Laboratory Management Center, and probably you can see what machines that you can engage a service on. But of course, when I say service, that means that you need to pay for it. Alright, first things first. So since I'm a part of the chemical management unit, so this is actually the organizational structure of the CMU. So as I said, we are under the PPMU. So PPMU, the director is actually Prof. Samri. So underneath will be me as the more or less the manager of CMU and also the facility for the overall structure of PPMU. We have a few staff under CMU, which is by Puan Syazwani. A lot of students actually would enlisted her help to fill up some of the forms regarding chemicals. And we also have a new staff, Mr. Hilmi, which is actually a research officer, but he is going to be handling some stuff on gas. And we also have, oh, before I forget, Puan Syazwani is actually a competent person, which has a certificate for a hygiene tech, which means that anything about chemical handling, proper handling, and anything regarding chemical, okay, she's the one in UTM. So we also have another competent person, which is Puan Norlin Arshad. So she is actually, oh, I actually forgot to change this. She's actually now C32. She basically has got promoted. So she is the competent person we call as Chep Swam for schedule waste management. So anything regarding chemical schedule waste or anything about schedule waste, well, that would be Puan Norlin. So we also have two other staff. One is Encik Norali or Encik Matno. So he is the one that will be manning the store. And usually when chemicals arrive, he is the one that will basically be calling or notify the PTJ or people from the faculty to come and get it. Apart from that, we also have Mr. Haziq to help around with Encik Matno. And also, basically, he is the one responsible for gas handling from UIRL only. Alright, so my first topic is actually on occupational health hazard before I go into the main topic. So why I chose to basically talk about occupational health hazard is that, well, all of us are working. Well, you are studying, but at the same time you're actually also working, right? So let's take a look at what are the health hazards that you may go through, whether you realize it or not. So let's take a look at some of the sources of occupational health hazard and the impact of this hazard. Alright, so these are the types of occupational hazard. There are 5. I'm not including the other one because it's something to do with your mind, so I'm not going to talk about that. So the first one is physical, we have chemical, we have ergonomic, and we have biological. Alright, so let's have a look at the physical hazards. So from the pictogram, okay, you can see what type of hazards that could be imposed on you. So a lot of things. So for example, okay, physical hazards can come from any one of these, and probably not restricted to this. Probably there are more. Okay, I'm just giving some examples that has been reported. Probably there are more. So anything from the heat, like cold, humidity, and everything stated here, could become a hazard to you, one way or another, and it also depends on you. So the ones that I'm going to stress about is actually on chemical hazard, and of course the last one, which the biological hazard. But again, let's have a look at chemical hazard because this is the core of this topic or my part. So the physical classification is divided into 3: solid and liquid, gas and vapor, and particulates, which include mist, dust, and fumes. So for the solid, basically it is usually non-hazardous unless small enough to enter the body, and there are lots of entryway. Metals may also be hazardous when being heated up because it produces fumes, and sometimes those fumes, well, are not detectable or basically not visible. In terms of liquid, we are talking about corrosive liquids or volatile liquids which are hazardous, and vapor. Well, it could come from gases, again, which form in the form of liquid, again, at room temperature and also based on pressure. And some liquid emits vapor, and the quantity depends on the volatility. So sometimes lower boiling point would encourage the liquid to be more volatile, and sometimes higher vapor pressure would basically encourage the chemical to vaporize easily. And liquids with low boiling point and high vapor pressure are actually more hazardous. And the last one over here is actually on gas. So it is actually a state of matter that completely fills the region in which it is contained. So most of the time gas are very low density and viscosity, but it could expand and contract greatly in response to changes in temperature and also pressure, so it depends. And what's dangerous about gas is that it is easily diffused into other gases. The mixture is not going to be good. Now the other three is dust, fumes, and mist. So for dust, well, dust could be anything, but it is basically more or less defined as suspension of solid particles in the air, and it could be generated from mechanical processes, such as when you are handling something, when you're drilling something, or when you are crushing something. For fumes, usually it is basically based on the action from solid particles, from condensation of substances, especially from the vapor state, and it could normally be generated by metals. Some metals, such as molten metals, which upon vaporization would produce oxidized vapor, and sometimes would also more or less encourage condensation of oxide, and of course this will form fine solid particles. So the last one is actually on mist. So it is a dispersion of liquid particles in air, and mist could be something that you could see with your eyes. Most of the time you couldn't see with your eyes. So it is generated from either one of these, or probably more: electroplating, spraying, dipping, and probably a whole lot more. Now, chemicals could have toxic effect to us humans upon contact or any other route of entry. So the example I'm giving here are some of the most common that has been seen, observed, and also reported, but probably there are more. The first one would be irritation. So if you are irritated, whether you have an allergy or whether basically it is exposed to your skin and whatnot, so usually it causes some irritation. You get rashes, or your skin will become red, itchy, and whatnot. So certain people also have certain allergies to certain chemicals, whether you know it or not. Worst case scenario would be asphyxiation, based on allergy and also irritation. Sometimes it leads to narcosis and anesthesia. Oh, sorry about the spelling. It could also become a poisoning in terms of systemic poisoning, blood poisoning. Some of them could be carcinogenic, which would cause cancer and teratogenesis or mutagenesis. So apart from that, it could also be pneumococcosis, so which means that it affects your lungs. Alright, so these are some of the chronic toxicity of organic solvents. So the types of organ that basically is affected, the disorder, and also the solvent that cause the disorder. So I'm not going to explain in detail, probably you can have a look in your notes, because the chronic toxicity of this organic solvent actually depends on exposure and the condition that you're working with. So whether you're working without a fume hood or without something to contain the release, then probably it will be a whole lot worse. Now, in certain cases, whereby when you are dealing with lead, plumbum, okay, so it could cause anemia, which means that low blood cell, red blood cell, system reproduction could be more or less affected. Okay, for guys, you could have impotence. For women, especially if you do get pregnant, probably it cause miscarriage. It could also sometimes lead to kidney failure, high blood pressure, nervous system, or basically damage your nervous system. Could sometimes cause behavioral change and also neuropathy. So apart from that, another thing that people actually are not really concerned about or probably forgot about it is actually the health effect of asbestos. So basically, asbestos it could affect our lungs, and a lot of people actually did notice this because probably they don't know that it basically releases particles in the air. So if it affects your lung, sometimes it could cause asbestosis, the disease, lung cancer, or mesothelioma, cancer of the lung lining, and also pneumonia. So it could also affect other systems such as cancer, which sometimes could lead to colon or kidney cancer. Alright, so let's have a look at biological hazards. So, well, biological hazards, because we are in biosciences, so probably to some of us is quite dear to our heart. So for those of you who are doing some bioinformatics, probably not really related to you, but well, have a look anyway. So, biological hazards, usually, well, we know that it comes from either bacteria, viruses, fungi, or mold. So the health effects are as such, because sometimes it could cause these diseases and a whole lot more. And the last one that is applicable to all of us, even those with bioinformatics, and especially those with bioinformatics. Can you see that this is a person in front of a laptop, on a chair, using a desk. So there are some ergonomic hazards here. So what we meant by ergonomic hazards is basically in terms of your improper posture. Are you sitting right? Are you sitting correctly, or are you sitting hunched? Sometimes an awkward posture could cause discomfort, whether you are used to it or probably didn't realize it. Slippery walkways. This is always ergonomic hazard, especially when you're moving around and also probably carrying something heavy. Prolonged standing. Well, standing is actually good for you, kind of a form of exercise, but prolonged standing is actually not good as well. Same goes for prolonged sitting. Sitting too long could be hazardous to you, especially to your knees. Now, these are some of the health effects from ergonomic hazard. So, for example, a fall, low back pain, shoulder and neck pain or stiffness, leg cramp, deep vein thrombosis, especially if you sit for too long, and varicose veins. Alright, so I think I'll stop here and you guys go on to the next video, which I'll be talking more about on chemical storage, handling, and how you can actually, well, safely handle them.